In the years that I've been in this business as a private investigator, I've found a position that I like. And that position is I put criminals away just like this dummy right here. I don't represent bad guys and never have except on 2 occasions. And those 2 occasions I was asked by the court to be an investigator for, I guess you'd call it the defendant. They didn't really like what I had as far as the defense team, so I don't think I was ever hired by the court again to do such a job that I did not like with total disdain. But you know, next month is going to be 50 years in the JFK assassination. Now, in these segments that I'm going to be trying to teach you is things that have happened as a private investigator. So why am I going back 50 years to look at something that happened on November 22nd, 1963? A very good reason. I wanted to see on that particular day the President of the United States, who had just arrived in Dallas, going to a luncheon. I got there a little bit early at the intersection of Harwood and Main. No, I take that back, it wasn't. It was Ross and Harwood. As I arrived, I saw people gathering there on the corner, all up and down Ross Avenue, and all up and down Harwood. Well, I'm tall. As a result, that I was able to be the third behind a lot of people. But that wasn't the most important thing that happened. All of a sudden, I heard the motorcycle police motorcade coming my way, and I looked to the left, which at that time would have been north on Harwood. As I did, I saw half a dozen motorcycles coming our way. They came right up to the area where we were to make sure that people stood back. Within a few minutes, I then saw the main part of the motorcade headed our way. But suddenly, just as it was starting to approach, the 1 block just north of us, on the west side of the street where I was, a Lincoln convertible pulled out with a wagon, and on top of that wagon was an outhouse that said, with a big sign, "Impeach Earl Warren." Now, Earl Warren was a Supreme Court justice, particularly I guess you'd call it very active on civil rights. But suddenly when that vehicle pulled out, it was right beside where President Kennedy was. And I went, oh my God, and we all kind of screamed. But they jumped on it, got him stopped, and the motorcade proceeded. Actually, it didn't even slow down hardly at all. But there was no barricade at that intersection. I've always wondered why. Secondly, there was no police officer there. Again, I wondered why. But the one thing that caused me a great deal of concern was the fact that in the Warren Commission report, they never once mentioned this Lincoln convertible with the top down, with the wagon, and the outhouse on the back saying, "Impeach Earl Warren." Well, I was involved 18 years later in something that I'm going to tell you in another segment concerning JFK. But as he passed, I said, thank God, nothing happened to him. But then 5 minutes later, he was supposedly killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. But 18 years later, I also became involved in the exhumation of Oswald, which is an entirely different segment that I think some of you might enjoy. Now, why am I using that in this particular segment as far as, investigation? When you read something, don't always believe what you read. It's important to look at the underpart. Look at the back pages. Read it and reread it. Because as a good investigator, you'll find that sometimes there may be a hidden meaning, or sometimes they may have missed something, just as the Warren Commission report missed the fact that that man could have assassinated President Kennedy there at the intersection of Ross and Harwood on November 22nd, 1963.